So one of the main questions when it comes to the murder of Jill Dando is, how did her killer know that she was going to arrive home on the day and at the time she did, if she was not living at 29 Gowan Avenue and she had no set pattern of her comings and goings there? Was her phone bugged? Did her fiance tell someone she was going to be there? Was she followed? No, it's quite simple really. The man that shot Jill Dando was sporadically turning up in and around where she lived for weeks at least leading up to her murder. And to me, this says lone obsessive stalker rather than professional hitman.
On the 26th of April last year, there are a number of sightings of a person hanging around in Gowan Avenue, in Fulham, outside the address where Jill Dando lived. That a man was seen on 2 previous Mondays before the 26th.
I noticed a man standing outside the nursery school. I was going to a cafe in Munster Road for breakfast. I was in the cafe about 35 to 40 minutes, and when I left and started walking south down Munster Road, he was still standing outside the nursery school. As I walked through the gateway, I noticed the man was now standing on the south side of Waldo Avenue at the junction with Munster Road by the tea shop. I left the house to go down the bookies on the Fulham Palace Road. I realised the man that I'd seen a week earlier was now standing at the junction of Waldo Avenue and Silbury Street. And when I came back 20 minutes later, he was still standing where I'd seen him. As I was walking down Silbury Street, I saw the same man again. He sort of got a bit agitated and tried to hide his face while looking straight down at the pavement.
So according to the CrimeWatch UK reconstruction, we have a witness that see a potential suspect on 3 different occasions, and on 2 of those occasions the man was standing for at least 20 to 35 minutes. Now I believe this is Jill Dando's stalker, and I believe he's strategically placing himself in and around where she lives so he can see her. And all this happened at least 2 weeks before she was murdered.
Then on the morning of the 26th of April, a mother was driving her son to school in Gowan Avenue and she saw a man wearing a Trilby type hat.
Watch him, Mum.
He was looking up like he was waiting for something. He had the worst ill-fitting suit on that you could imagine.
Well, he is a funny one.
I was delivering mail along the odd numbers till I reached 29, which I know is Jill Dando's house. I've met Jill a few times, either delivering her mail or passing her in the street. I took a couple of paces down the front garden path, and just before I reached the front garden gate I saw a man standing in the road looking directly at number 29. It's like he thought someone was going to receive the mail.
It is around about 11 o'clock. A man is driving again in Gowan Avenue, but going the other way. He had noticed a man in Gowan Avenue standing between 2 parked cars, just standing there.
I better go, I don't want to get a ticket over there. Right. Love to Glyn. Bye. I was weighing up whether to go home or to Sally Parsons' shop on Fulham Road. I was thinking quite hard about it, and as I sat there was a man about 1 car length away. He had noticeable dark hair and a blue suit, and he didn't seem uncomfortable or uneasy. I was thinking of my dilemma at the time, but I was somehow dimly aware that he might have been an estate agent.
I was in Bishop's Road waiting to cross Munster Road. Out of the corner of my eye there was a man outside the double glazing shop. He looked out of context in every way. His clothes didn't fit, his hat didn't fit, and he acted very strangely.
I saw a man standing on the corner of Gowan Avenue, just very, very agitated. And the one thing that I couldn't help but keep looking at was like the glasses he had on his face. They didn't seem to fit.
I believe all the sightings of the man in this video is of the same man, and this is the man that shot Jill Dando. This man was stalking Jill Dando, and he knew where she lived because he lived in a local area, and if a famous person or celebrity lived in your area, people gossip, you would probably know. Another reason why I believe this man lived in a local area is because even though it was not shown in the CrimeWatch reconstruction, a man that fitted this description was first witnessed outside Jill Dando's house at 7 AM in the morning she was shot. Jill Dando was shot at 11:30. What was he doing between that time? Probably going home and coming back. This man had mental health issues and acquired an attraction for Jill Dando through her work in the media and by watching her on television. In fact, on Tuesday the 20th of April, Jill Dando was on CrimeWatch.
Britain's most important unsolved cases. Now live, you can help solve them.
The next day, on the 21st of April, the suspect was seen hanging around on the corner of Sidbury Road and Wardour Avenue. On the 24th of April, Jill Dando was on the cover of Radio Times. On the 25th of April, Jill Dando was on Antiques Inspector. On the 26th of April, Jill Dando was murdered. I believe this man was actually getting fueled by watching her on television. Every time he sees her on television or in a magazine, it fuels and feeds his fantasies, and he begins to stalk her. This could have been happening for months or even years, and it would just so happen that on one of the days he was there, Jill Dando did actually turn up.
We now live in a society where there are a significant proportion of our fellow citizens who live very lonely, isolated lives, but at the same time they're bombarded with images of other people's intimacy. So a lonely, sad individual sitting in their one-room flat can watch large numbers of desirable people apparently talking to them, and it feeds their fantasies. I think that violence is imminent in stalking because the stalker is inevitably frustrated. The stalker inevitably is brought up against the limitations of reality, and that can produce anger, and anger can lead to threats and to violence. Clearly, if the person is severely mentally disordered and increasingly intrusive, this is worrying. If the person's a substance abuser and becomes threatening, if the person has already got a history of violence, all of these things increase the risk.
Public figures inhabit our worlds, and you never know quite what imaginings are laid on to people who are in our living rooms day in, day out on television. And that can add to the complexity. And this is where you have this problem that I think was a particular problem for the police in this particular case, is that although the individual apparently was a stranger to her assailant, in some ways she was somebody her assailant knew very well. And that relationship issue is part of the things that it's so difficult to disentangle.
So in my opinion, there's two possible reasons why he shot her. Reason number 1, out of pure jealousy and envy. He was envious of her career and of the fact that she was about to get engaged. Almost like, if I can't have you, then nobody can have you. Reason number 2, which I tend to lean towards more, is he didn't actually set out to murder her. In his head, he believed that he actually had a chance with Jill Dando, so he was romantically courting her. This would explain why the Trilby hats and the ill-fitting suits. So he's actually dressing up, trying to look dapper for a chance encounter with Jill Dando. He's actually romanticized in his head over and over and over again about meeting her. So when he actually did meet her, it didn't go the way he anticipated it would. He happened to have a gun on him and shot her. This would explain why this man wasn't bothered about standing out in the street for everyone to see him, because it wasn't premeditated. He just happened to have a gun on him because of his mental health issues. He would walk with a gun to go to the supermarket. He would walk with a gun to go and visit his mum. So the gun had nothing to do with killing Jill Dando. He just happened to have the gun on him because it made him feel more confident anyway, or he's living in some imagination world where he needs to have a gun. This would explain why the caliber of gun was, well, it was a reboard gun, a smoothbore barrel gun with a temperamental bullet. This doesn't say criminal sophistication to me. This man wasn't even wearing gloves. In fact, there's nothing about this murder that shows that there was really planning or signs that it was premeditated. So I believe maybe he was just courting her and he couldn't take the rejection, so he shot her.